I sigh deeply, picking up the bad habits of those that participated in January 6th insurrection coup attempt in the United States of America. What you just watched was an attempted coup on the newly elected Lula in a weeks-old government in Brazil, right? I mean, thousands of far-right extremists ran riots through the country's democratic institutions. Let's put this up from The Guardian. Lula was not in Brasília at the time of the attack, but he gave an angry speech blaming Bolsonaro, he didn't mince any words, for the chaos and promising that anyone involved will be punished, calling those who took part in the attacks vandals, neo-fascists, and fanatics. Again, not mincing any words. Lula ordered a federal intervention in the capital, bringing policing under the control of the central government. That reporting is coming from The Guardian. And then the president also tweeted, let's take a look at his tweet. I was just tonight at Pelanato Place and at the STF. The coup plotters who promoted the destruction of public property in Brasília are being identified and will be punished. Tomorrow, we resume work at the Pelanato Palace. Democracy always. Good night. So the president got right on that, putting out a tweet of his own, letting folks know there will be some repercussions and consequences for what you have just done. But why did these terrorists launch this coup? It's very clear why they did it. Bolsonaro lost to Lula in a tight fought election in October, but his supporters have refused to accept the result and camped out near military facilities, alleging the election was stolen, even though there is no evidence to back up their claim. Does this stuff sound familiar? Yeah, it does. And what exactly did they do? So glad that you asked. They smashed windows, furniture, equipment, destroyed works of art and official documents, and occupied the buildings before law enforcement officials could move in to end the chaos. At least 1,200 people were arrested. I mean, really, that's what they did. We got a map, or wait, before we go to the map, yeah, we're playing this, and I mean, Jessica, this seems like history is repeating itself just in another country.
It really does. The interesting thing about this coup is Congress wasn't in session, is what we're hearing. Every report says that they were pretty much invading a building where government wasn't happening, right? They had the day off. So in the United States, they were intervening the counting of votes. Here, they weren't intervening any kind of process that would validate the election in any possible way. So it's a bit ridiculous that they're copying what happened in the United States. They're doing a worse version of a failed coup. And it's bad, but it's also funny in that way.
Yeah, it really is. And then we have a graphic, if you will, of some of the buildings and the outlay of the Capitol there, but where they were destroying and making all kinds of mayhem and foolishness and craziness. And this came compliments of the Washington Post. And all of this does sound familiar. I mean, it really is. And as Jessica pointed out, their members were not in session. Our members were in session, but they decided to copycat anyway. This is a bad copycat. Even comparing the costumes to people that showed up on January 6th in the United States of America. Let's put this up. Can I copy your homework? Yeah, just change it up a bit so it doesn't look obvious you copied. I mean, it looks extraordinarily obvious that they copied. Unfortunately, they did. And where is Bolsonaro? I'm so glad that you asked. Bolsonaro, a far-right former army captain whose main international ally was Trump, flew out of Brazil on the eve of Lula's inauguration and is currently in Florida. Yeah, Florida as in the United States. Bolsonaro stopped short of condemning the mob. Oh Lord. Okay, let me keep reading this, y'all. Bolsonaro stopped short of condemning the mob outright and instead hit out at Lula's claim that he was responsible. Lord, have mercy on my soul. I really do need to call on Jesus at this point. I mean, Jessica, this is almost exactly the same playbook.
Yeah, Yeah, to say, I didn't ask them to do it, so it wasn't me. I'm just hanging out in Orlando, totally innocent. Yeah, right.
Totally innocent.
Yeah, they had, some significant officials from the capital district in Brazil go and visit Bolsonaro in Orlando. And the latest we're hearing is that Bolsonaro's now in the hospital. I mean, we know his health is not well. These people trying to coup the government. I mean, what are you going to do, right? You infiltrate these buildings, which are empty. What is your plan to take power? The guy that you're trying to install in power, if he was back in the country, there's a consideration that if he was extradited back to Brazil, he would be prosecuted. I mean, seriously, these people have not thought through what happens next. And for them to be called freedom fighters or people who are fighting for freedom is ridiculous. Like, Lula is the president that is fighting for the people, not Bolsonaro.
That's it. And they co-opted the word. I mean, we even have Steve Bannon, no surprise. Let's put this up. He did call them Brazilian freedom fighters. Is how he feels about the people on January 6th, just the same. This is very much a global issue, a global threat. This kind of unrest of people that if things don't go their way electorally, they just gonna start, pushing coups. It's a global issue, so we're gonna stay on top of this. Really quite sad, but I'm glad that President Lula is on top of this.